Here's an interesting number that just came our way. The last 13 polls out of Iowa showed Donald Trump leading here, and yet he did not win. Guy Benson is the political editor of townhall.com and a Fox News contributor. Roger Stone is a former political advisor to both Donald Trump and Richard Nixon. Welcome to you both. Guy, what does that tell you? 13 polls, last 13, say Donald Trump was winning.
No, the pollsters got it wrong again. This is a trend we're seeing in politics across the world, really. Donald Trump was the leader in these polls, and the average by about 5 points, and he lost. He underperformed by 4 points. Ted Cruz overperformed by 5 points. Marco Rubio by 7 points. So, I mean, I think what we saw tonight, Megyn, is that some laws of political gravity absolutely do apply to Donald Trump. Ted Cruz won because he outworked and outorganized Donald Trump, and that disproved the polls. Big, big win for Cruz.
The other thing, Roger, is that the evangelical vote tonight was big. 64% of voters described themselves as evangelicals. They went decidedly for Ted Cruz. 34% for Ted Cruz, 22% for Donald Trump, 21% for Marco Rubio. Prior to tonight, Trump and Cruz had been splitting the evangelical vote, and it had been a smaller share of the electorate.
You know, I think Donald Trump created a large enough pool of people to win the Iowa caucus. Unfortunately, his campaign was not quite able to convert them to voters. But I would point out to you that Ronald Reagan lost the Iowa caucuses after refusing to do a final debate, and he bounced back in New Hampshire. New Hampshire, the makeup of New Hampshire, with a fewer number of evangelicals, is probably better turf for Trump. So the Iowa caucuses do not a nominee make, and this contest moves on to New Hampshire and South Carolina.
What do you make of it, Guy? Because those here in Iowa, the overwhelming, the biggest group of them, 42%, said the most important thing to them in a candidate was they want somebody who shared their values. At 42%, the next closest was can bring change, which was half at 21%. So they really wanted somebody who shared their values. Of those voters, 38% went for Ted Cruz. The next closest was Rubio at 21. Just 5% believe that Trump shared their values.
Yep. And that goes to conservatism. And one of the big critiques of Donald Trump from people like myself, who are proud conservatives, is that we don't view Donald Trump as a committed, reliable conservative. And when you add the two totals up from the true conservatives in this race, among those top three, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, you get 51% coming out of Iowa to 24% for Donald Trump. So the big question is, how will this field thin out? How quickly will it thin out? And if it does become that three-person race that we just heard Marco Rubio's campaign talking about, how do the dynamics change? I think they change dramatically.
Roger, how does Trump deal with what Charles was talking about earlier, which is it pierces his message of invincibility, that he's a winner, that he always wins? He didn't.
Yeah, nice try, Charles. The truth is he was very humble and gracious tonight. Trump is a competitor, and you're about to see what a fighter he is. Now, I think he needs to be more focused in his criticism of Ted Cruz, but Ted Cruz can't get to Marco Rubio until he gets through Donald Trump, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ted Cruz's campaign has reached its high water mark tonight.
Do you think, Roger, that that Trump is looking at Rubio more now as a guy he's got to take out, or Cruz?
Well, conversely, Trump must deal with Cruz first to win the conservative intramural. But clearly, Trump is mindful of the fact that Rubio's coming up the side and winning the intramural competition to be the establishment candidate. So, in all honesty, Trump has to both deal with Cruz and ultimately with Rubio.
It's about to get interesting. Great to see you both. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megyn.